Okay, so you found mold in your home. The reaction is almost visceral, right? A mix of ew, gross, and oh no, is this serious? That's the big question we're tackling today. We're going to give you a calm, practical way to figure out what you're really looking at. And this quote, it just nails the central issue, doesn't it? We either totally panic over a tiny little spot, or we shrug off a huge problem because, hey, it just wipes off. The truth is, both of those reactions can be completely wrong. Oftentimes, our own judgment is the real problem, leading us to either freak out or do nothing at all. So let's start by busting the biggest myth out there. The most common way we judge mold, by its color, how big it is, or how fuzzy it looks, is actually one of the least reliable ways to figure out the risk. It's so misleading. Let me show you why. Okay, check this out. This slide pretty much flips our instincts on their head. That small, dark, scary-looking patch on the left, well, that could just be a bit of seasonal condensation on a cold wall, a pretty manageable issue, all things considered. But that pale, almost invisible mold on the right, the stuff hiding behind a wardrobe, that is way more concerning. Why? Because it suggests a long-term hidden moisture problem. The key takeaway here isn't the visual drama, it's the conditions that let the mold grow in the first place. So if appearance is a bad guide, what's a good one? Well, let's dive into the 4 factors that actually determine the risk. Think of this as your building detective toolkit for reading the clues the right way. That's right, just 4. Forget color, forget texture. These are the things that really matter. They're going to give you a clear, accurate picture of what's going on. First up is extent. And this is all about the total area that's affected. Are we talking about one little isolated spot, or are you seeing patches on a bunch of different surfaces? And this is crucial. Extent also includes what you can't see. If you even suspect there's growth behind furniture or under the floor, that's a major red flag that you've got some sustained damp conditions. Second, we have persistence. And let me tell you, this one is a huge giveaway. If you clean the mold away and it comes right back, that's basically your building screaming at you that the underlying moisture problem has not been solved. Recurrence is one of the absolute strongest signs that you're dealing with more than just a surface-level issue. All right, our third factor is location. Where the mold is growing matters a lot. A little bit of mold in the corner of a shower, that's one thing. But growth in a bedroom, or even worse, a child's room, basically any area where you spend a ton of time, that carries a much greater risk, simply because you're breathing that air for hours and hours on end. And that leads us perfectly to our 4th and final factor, exposure. This is all about who is being affected and for how long. The risk level just skyrockets if you've got children, elderly people, or anyone with respiratory conditions like asthma living in the home. Seriously, a small amount of mold in a bedroom that you sleep in every single night can be far more significant than a bigger patch in a room you barely ever go into. Okay, so now we've got our 4 factors, right? Extent, persistence, location, and exposure. Let's put them into practice and see what low-risk and high-risk situations actually look like side by side. And this slide just lays it out so clearly. On the left, you've got your low-level mold. It's limited, maybe it only pops up in the winter, and then it's gone once things warm up. It's situational. But then you look to the right, and you see all the red flags. It keeps growing back, it's in multiple spots, you're pretty sure it's hidden somewhere, and the wall itself just feels damp to the touch. That's the classic sign of a persistent moisture problem. This brings us to a really common trap. When you see mold, the first instinct for so many of us is to just grab a cloth and wipe it away. But that's not the solution. And it is definitely not a test of how serious the problem actually is. This right here is the key takeaway. Wiping down the wall is purely cosmetic. It's a quick fix. You've removed the symptom, yeah, but you haven't done a single thing about the disease, that underlying moisture that's letting the mold thrive in the first place. So just remember this. The real test isn't can you wipe it off? The real test is, does it come back? That recurrence, that is the ultimate proof of a deeper issue. Okay, so to help you move from that initial panic to a more practical assessment, let's walk through a super simple checklist. These are the questions you should be asking yourself instead of just, staring at the color of the mold and worrying. Let's just run through these real quick. Has this happened before? That checks for persistence. Has it returned after cleaning? Bam, persistence again. Is it in multiple locations? That's about the extent of the problem. Is the area cold or blocked by furniture? That points to the underlying conditions causing it. And finally, is the room used daily? That's all about your exposure. See?
The answers to these questions give you a much more accurate picture of the real risk.
And this is why all of this matters so much. The whole point of this assessment isn't just to slap a label on your mold, like bad or not so bad. The goal is to get you to a decision point. It helps you figure out a response that actually makes sense, whether that's something simple like improving ventilation or something more serious like calling in a professional. It helps you avoid those extremes of either overreacting and spending a ton of money unnecessarily or underreacting and ignoring a genuine risk to your home and your health. So the next time you see mold, I want you to try not to see it as just a mess that needs to be cleaned up. Instead, ask this question. Think of it as a message. It's your house, communicating with you. It's giving you clues about moisture, about ventilation, and about the overall health of the building itself. So what is it trying to tell you?